Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second in our CAEF series of web talks entitled Fighting Back, Responses to Jew Hatred. Today's talk with Brigadier General Amir Avivi will be a presentation of new approaches, and I'm eager to hear them. Special thanks to Ron Fish for sponsoring today's web talk, and to our friends and co-sponsors for helping to promote today's event. Club Z, Atlanta Israel Coalition, the Canadian Institute of Jewish Research, the Rhode Island Coalition for Israel, Beit Raim Synagogue, the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, Jewish Resistance, the Lawfare Project, End Jew Hatred Canada, Americans for Peace and Tolerance, the Lodger Synagogue, Doctors Against Racism and Anti-Semitism, and Adith Israel Synagogue. Your support means a great deal to us, and we thank all of you. The Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation is a registered charitable organization that is engaged in education and advocacy, building Jewish pride, and building interfaith, intercommunal relationships. Over the course of the last 3 years, it has become abundantly clear and has given focus to our mission that anti-Zionism is the major source today of anti-Semitism. That anyone debates this as obfuscation, diversion, or worse, their goal might be the destruction of the state of Israel. We are here to make sure that never happens, and we know that you, our audience, agrees. Please consider making a donation to CAEF so we can continue to build quality programs and briefings for you, and to develop both the End Jew Hatred Canada grassroots movement for Jewish civil rights and the educational programs of CAEF. Please just go to www.caef.ca to donate. Brigadier General Amir Avivi, the founder and CEO of Habithonistim, the Israel Defense and Security Forum, stated the following in his organization's annual report. Like the Palmach, which developed into the Israel Defense Force, we at ISDF are now upgrading operations and becoming more professional by developing a marketing strategy to manage extensive public relations, both in Israel and internationally, recruiting more top officers to deliver lectures in the pre-army program, and expanding the research department in order to uncover the extent of damage caused by the enemies of Israel, internal and abroad. The organization consists of over 3,000 senior members of the IDF, and the other arms of the defense services, as well as the Israeli police. The organization has engaged thousands of people in receiving lectures and seminars, and met with members of government and made many public appearances. Today, we will hear what the voices of these uniformed Israeli men and women are speaking about, and how we can participate in changing the landscape for Israel. Amir Avivi retired from the Israeli Defense Forces in 2017 after more than 30 years of military, counterterrorism, and national defense experience. Most recently, he served as the head of the auditing and consulting department of the Israeli Defense Establishment, overseeing a team of more than 100 auditors and advisors responsible for all manner of operational planning and logistics, budgeting, and procurement. Brigadier General Avivi has commanded the Corps of Engineers in combating environmental terrorism, and has been a brigade commander, deputy division commander, and head of the Military School of Engineers. He previously also served as aide-de-camp for the General Chief of Staff. Amir Avivi has an MBA cum laude, majoring in internal audit, an MA in national security, and a BA in political science and American history, and is a graduate of the Israeli National Defense College. And if that were not enough, he is also fluent in English, Spanish, Italian, and Hebrew. Please note that the webinar is being recorded and a video will be made available to all who've registered. Please feel free to submit questions, which Amir will respond to after his presentation. Please use the Q&A function on Zoom, and note that courtesy is required at all times. If anyone is discourteous or disruptive, they will be bounced out. And now it's my great pleasure to welcome General Amir Avivi.
Thank you very much, Andrea. It's a real pleasure to be here today. I think this webinar is going on in a very, very interesting and sensitive time. I think we're facing huge threats but we're also facing huge opportunity. And I'll try to talk in this webinar about the threat, to try and understand it, and then really talk about what's the opportunity, what needs to be done. And I think that everybody who is participating here feels that something is not working, things that are not moving in the direction that we would like it to move. Anti-Semitism is rising more and more and more all over the world. It's getting more and more dangerous. We see also in Israel a situation that is very, very complex, because on one hand, we have the Iranian threat surrounding us all around, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iraq, in Yemen, and in Iran, hundreds of thousands of rockets, missiles, and so on. But we also see a whole campaign, a Palestinian campaign inside Israel, trying to undermine Zionism, trying to grab the land everywhere. And there is a very strong connection between what Israel is facing inside and outside Israel, and its connection to what is going on in the world overall. So, having said that, I think that really what we want to talk about, not only how to fight, but how to win. I'm a general. I always think about winning wars, not just dealing with them. And we'll try to talk about that. But I think that first of all, really, we have to ask ourselves why we're in a situation where many of us feel scared. I think that many Jews around the world feel powerless to deal with this tsunami of anti-Semitism that is all around us, and pretty much clueless. I mean, it seems that nothing is really working for us. Cannot say that I can see something clear that we are managing to counter in a clear way. I think it's obviously, it makes us really frustrated and angry and maybe confused. And I think that many Jews today also feel weak, are not feeling strong. Now, these are all phenomena and feelings, and we need to really understand what is going on around us. So I would say that what is happening is that basically our very, very basic beliefs and ideas and who we are and so on is being challenged. And there is a narrative that is being pushed all around the world by, in Western countries, BDS, but also by the Arab nations led by the Palestinians, that says the following. They're pushing a narrative that says the Jews are foreigners that came in 1948 and started conquering a state called Palestine. And since then, they are conquering more and more of this state. At the beginning, it was a state, a big one, and now it's shrinking. It's getting smaller and smaller, and the Jews are becoming more and more occupiers. This picture I'm showing you, this is what Abu Mazen went to the UN. This is what he shows in the UN. And it tells a complete lie, presenting a narrative, and this is the leading narrative by far. Every youngster in the world, when he writes Palestine on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever, this is the story. This is the leading story they have. So just for us to really, first of all, understand how much of a lie is this. I talk a lot to the young generation, my officers. We have thousands of officers who reach out to pre-army programs, high schools, communities and so on. And I talk also to ambassadors and decision makers, and each time I ask, where does the name Palestine come from? And almost nobody knows, very few. I've never met an ambassador who is serving in Israel who knew the answer, not even one. It means that nobody's talking to them about that. And I'm asking myself, why am I the only one who's willing to ask the question and answer it also? So basically, as I hope you know, this land in history has always been the land of Israel or Judea. And after our second rebellion against the Romans, when they finally got fed up with us after we lost the rebellion, they decided that they need to erase completely the name of the Jews from the land, disconnect our connection to the land, and they named the land Palestina. Of course, it was long before Islam, long before Arabs. This name has everything to do with Jewish history and nothing to do with Arabs or Muslims. In 1947, when they were talking about building maybe two states, they talk about an Arab state and a Jewish state. Nobody heard about Palestinians in 1947. But today, what I'm saying, nobody knows. Most of the Jews don't know that. And this is the narrative that is being pushed. Now, we, for a long time, we wanted to be nice. We wanted to show that, you know, we are looking also on the other side. We started fighting among ourselves along the question of Judea and Samaria, to the extent that Jews talk about their own land as occupied. I mean, this is the land of Israel. We are the Jewish people. We are discussing between ourselves whether the most important parts of our land are ours or not. And I'm not talking about solutions. Anybody who Googles my name will see that I'm an expert on solutions. And I deal with solutions. It's not about that. It's about basic just. Are we just or aren't we just? Is this the land of Israel or isn't it the land of Israel? And while we are discussing almost completely irrelevant discussion, the issue moved completely to another place. And the other place is Palestine, all of it. There is no single Arab who is talking today about two states. There is now nowhere in the anti-Semitic world that they talk about two states. They are talking about everything. Now, in preparation of this webinar, I'm not a researcher, I'm a general, okay? I went into Twitter, 5 minutes. In 5 minutes of looking at Twitter, what was posted in the last 10 or 15 minutes, I will show you some of the pictures, and we need to understand it. One of the things that we, for example, Jews always say, you know, we have a right for the land of Israel because of the Holocaust. This is a terrible argument, because basically what the Iranians are saying, what the Palestinians are saying, what the anti-Semites are saying, they're saying, listen, if you are Europeans, and the Europeans attacked you and kicked you out and killed you and burned you and so on, okay, but what does it have to do with the land of Israel? So you see in this example, why make Palestine suffer when it was not them who made you suffer in the 1940s? Now, how do you deal with this argument if you think that the right to be in the land of Israel is the Holocaust? So basically today the Iranians and everybody is saying, listen, you are Europeans, you are imperialists, you are conquerors, you are conquering another land. It doesn't belong to you. Go back to Europe. Why be here? And of course, in this scenario, they're accusing us of ethnic cleansing. Now, one of the interesting things that are happening now, you know, in the Negev, you have now like half of an uprisal of the Bedouins in the Negev. 300,000 Bedouins. This is the amount of people of the city of Haifa grabbed illegally a land that is bigger than all of the center of Israel. It's just 300,000 people. And when you come and say, listen, this is illegal what you are doing, we want to move you. And when Jews do something illegal, they're simply kicked out. But when Bedouins do it, the state says, listen, we'll give you free land, we'll give you money, just move from here to here. And the world calls this ethnic cleansing. And when you ask the Bedouins, okay, I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing, guys? I mean, this is illegal what you are doing. They say, what do you mean? The Negev is ours. And 2 weeks ago in Haaretz newspaper, Gidon Levy writes that just as Bnei Brak is a Haredi city, so the Negev is Bedouin. The Negev, 60% of Israel is Bedouin. This is what's going on. We have completely lost our minds. So the discussion starts with Judah and Samaria, but anybody who is willing to basically give up all of our ancient land and history, it doesn't come as a surprise that the next step he gives up all of the Negev. And then the mixed cities, and then the Galil, and so on. So when you go over these photos that are posted by the thousands on Twitter, this is what you see. Tell me where you see two states. This is from today. This is not Akar, it's Akka. It's not Bet Shemesh, it's Bisan. It's not Tel Aviv, it's Jaffa. It's not Hebron, it's not Jerusalem, it's not Lod, it's not the Negev, it's not Beersheba, it's not Tiberia, it's not Gush Chalav. Everything is upside down. All of the names in Israel are Bible names. They were kept even by the Arabs. When we came back, we knew everything where it was because the Arabs kept, the ones who were living, kept all of the names of the Bible. Now, look how it's upside down. It's not Jerusalem, it's El Quds. And then there it goes on. Palestine. Their message is really clear. There is no Israel in this vision. Same this week, a Gaza map in Gaza was put together. The Gazans talking about all of the land of Palestine. Of course, you have the issue of the keys, the people who left their house and are still holding the keys to go back to Haifa, to Lod, to Ramle and so on. So basically, if I describe what is going on, what are the threats and what are the opportunities? The threat is that we have a global propaganda and agenda, and the agenda is that Israel doesn't have the right to exist. That's it. The Palestinians, what they are doing, you know, we are usually talking about Hamas in Gaza, Israeli Arabs, Palestinians in the Palestinian Authority. But the reality of the matter is that there is one coordinated campaign inside the borders of the land of Israel to destroy Zionism. If I ask Abu Mazen, okay, tell me, what are you doing? What's your national security approach? What are the vectors? How are you operating? He will say the following. One, I'm destroying the sense of rightness of the Jewish people. How does he do it? He's armed. What he is doing is using BDS. Everything in BDS, all the engine behind BDS is the Palestinian Authority. When you go into the website of the BDS, scroll down, look what they say, who is managing their website. You will see it's written, the Palestinian forces. The BDS has terrorist organizations inside it, all of them Palestinians. So the Palestinians are conducting, and this is Abu Mazen, this is what some people, even our Minister of Defense, calls a partner, conducting a worldwide propaganda saying that we don't have the right to exist at all. Then I'll ask Abu Mazen, okay, I understand. You are doing it worldwide, you are doing it with the Arab population, in the education system and so on. What else? You'll say, I'm grabbing the land actively, like Zionism did in the past. So you see today a huge effort of the Palestinian Authority to grab the land in Area C, in Judah and Samaria. But at the same time, there is a Bedouin effort to grab the land in the Negev. And there is an effort to grab land in the Galil. And there is Arabs buying houses in the mixed cities with a lot of money from that is coming from the Gulf states. And all this is coordinated. It's not happening by chance. And then there is another campaign, which every Israeli today feels, to completely destabilize the personal security of Jews. Sounds familiar? I'm sure that you are feeling it also, not only in Israel. How do we see it? We see stones and Molotovs by the thousands in Judah and Samaria, but we also see it in the Negev. People cannot drive today between Beersheba to Dimona without being stoned or shooting or infiltrating to the houses, stealing, derailing people from the road. It's happening in the Galil. People have to pay money against extortion. It's happening in Lod. It's happening in Akko. It's going on everywhere. People in Israel, I don't know if you know it, are buying guns. It's Jews, I mean, to defend themselves. Are getting organized because they feel that the police is not doing the job good enough. Now, what we saw in the last operation, for me, the last operation is a very defining moment. Because we had an operation in Gaza, but at the same time, the Gazans, the Hamas managed to mobilize Israeli Arabs to do an intifada inside Israel, to attack Jews like in the 30s. And suddenly it became clear to many people that all this talk about Judah and Samaria and a state, not a state, and so on, it's not the issue. It's a fight for all of the land. And I think that, of course, this presents a huge threat. But this is also the opportunity. It's the opportunity to stop for a moment, understand what's going on, and understand that we need to go back to the basics of who we are. When somebody says to you, you don't belong here, Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. Okay, what's your answer? I want you to think about it. What will you answer to that? Nobody is talking about Judea and Samaria. What's your answer for Palestine will be free from the river to the sea? This is a very simple message. If you don't say, we are the people of Israel and this is the land of Israel, and that's it. No explanation. They're not explaining anything. They can say apartheid. They don't need to explain why they're saying, although it doesn't have anything to do with reality. They can say Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. They don't feel they need to explain anything. They don't need to explain the fact that Palestine has nothing to do with them, that this name was never heard in the Arab context until 1964. Why do they care about the facts? It's irrelevant. Now, I want to tell you what's the problem here. We usually, when we talk about anti-Semitism, we're really focused on how to counter them. This is not our main problem. Our main problem is us. Because when you start to give up your own story, you know, in every good story, there is a hero, somebody is the hero, and somebody is the villain. We forgot that we are the heroes of our own story. Okay, we stopped being the heroes. If I talk a marketing concept, we are wearing the branding of Am Israel, of the people of Israel. Am Israel was and is supposed to be the Delta Force of the nations, the Sayeret Matkal of the nations, the light of the nations, the most important, unique, and meaningful nation in the world. Are we behaving like that? What kind of message are we conveying to the next generation? Now, it comes as no surprise that millions of Jews in the diaspora are living Judaism. Why stay and be part of something that stopped being a brand, a leading brand? It's hard to be a Jew, but at least for 2,000 years, people stuck to Judaism because they said, okay, it's true, it's hard, you know, but we're Am Israel, we're the chosen people, we're the people of God. We are the reason why this globe exists in the first place. Everything is about us. All comes from us, everything. So yeah, I want to belong, even if it's a bit hard, you know. I can live with the heart because I know who we are. But if people are trying to make us, not only tell us that we're not the owners of our land, and maybe it's only half a land, and really, you know, it's not, that's all the idea of Am Israel is over. We just want like a democratic state with high tech and nice girls on the beach of Tel Aviv, and that's it. What appealing? Is it appealing? It's worth fighting for? There are nice beaches also in Tahiti. This is not our story. And first and foremost, our problem is that if we don't go back to who we are and be proud and feel important, then first of all, we're losing our own people. Now, I want to tell you an example. You know, I grew from the first 18 years of my life. I lived 15 years outside of Israel. I lived in Italy 5 years. I lived in South America 5 years. I lived in Ivory Coast. At the age of 15, I arrived to Italy. I was in Italy twice, to Rome, and I started learning in a British high school. Now, anybody who knows how a British high school operates, it has houses. And you have like 4 houses, and these houses have students from, let's say, the age of 14 to 18. And the houses compete between themselves all around the year. A house is a big deal in a British school. So I arrived to this school at the age of 16. And I was always a really, really proud Jew and a really proud Zionist, always. It was something basic in my personality. And I can tell you, I understand it now. I didn't understand it then. I came at the age of 16. At the age of 17, I was deputy house captain. At the age of 18, I was house captain. Now, being a house captain in a British system is something big. Jews usually don't get to be house captains anywhere in Britain. But I was an Israeli and a Jew. And I was the deputy house captain and house captain. How come? I'll tell you how come. Because the proudness I had inside me was, you know, it made people understand, wow, this guy, he has something about him. And people respect themselves. You want to be respected? Respect yourself. First of all, respect who you are. Don't apologize for being Jews, for being in the land of Israel, for fulfilling the destiny we have for thousands of years, for fulfilling our prophets' prophecies. And again, this is not about a specific solution. Believe me, I have many solutions for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's not about that. Look how they are acting. They're not talking about solutions. They're saying you don't belong here, that's it. I'm not trying to push for solutions. You know, when I meet an ambassador says the word occupation, I will never shut up. I will tell him where the Jewish people were not occupiers in our own land. You want to talk about solutions? We did a whole seminar. My organization did a huge seminar. We presented 4 different solutions. But we are not occupiers in our own land. And this is something that we need to convey in a very, very clear way. And we need to deal, first of all, with our own people. We need to be proud. The other thing is, the other phenomena is, take the evangelists, for example. I hear more and more that the young generation of evangelists is moving away from its long year pack, you know, together with the Jews. Why? For the exact same reason. I mean, if they believe that we are something special, but we don't believe that we are something special, so at a certain point, they stop believing as well. So if these guys don't believe that they are special, that they are Am Israel, that they have a destiny to fulfill, well, why should we? So we're losing our own people. We're losing our closest supporters. And then we're not clear enough when we talk to decision makers about our needs, about who we are, about our land. You know, I traveled a lot. I remember that I traveled with the chief of staff to Turkey. So before we went, they explained to us how sensitive the Turks are about Ataturk and visiting his mausoleum, and how you should behave when you are there, and the proudness that Turks have about their nation and so on. Okay, don't we have sensitivities? Aren't we proud? Anybody can step on us and say whatever he wants, and it's okay. And humiliate us when they come to our country and say that we are occupiers. and say that we, I don't know, like Amnesty now, that we're conducting apartheid and all these lies. You know, if there is one word I hate in Hebrew, is asbara. Asbara, it's to explain. I don't need to explain anything to anybody. A Jew doesn't need to explain why the people of Israel belong to the land of Israel. That's it. It needs no explanation. Somebody wants explanation, go read the Bible. That's it. And then once you establish that, now you want to talk about things that are happening on the ground. Okay, let's talk. Let's talk about solutions and so on. But we are not connected to really what's happening. And we need to do something about it. So if we're not changing course, I can tell you for sure that things are going to get worse and worse. And the narrative pushed by the world and the Palestinians is going to strengthen to such an extent that at the end of the day, the nations themselves will say loud and clear that Jews need to move out of all of the land of Israel. And that's it for us. And that's it. And this is something we need to deal with. Now, what we're doing now, you know, my organization has thousands of officers. So first and foremost, we bring this message to the young generation in Israel. When we come and speak to them, long before we talk about Palestinians, we ask them a simple question. You are Am Israel, what does it mean? What is our vision? What are our goals? Why are we here? We have to talk about that. What are our red lines? What do we need to thrive, to exist? Then we can talk about other national security issues and deal with the different issues that we need to deal with. And I can tell you what I find in the young generation. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of meetings. They crave for prideness. They crave for a sense of belong. They want to be part of something big. They want to discover what are we all about. And they lack knowledge, and they lack leadership. And they lack somebody igniting this Jewish soul again and making them remember who they are. And when it happens, you see miracles. And we would very much like to mobilize our thousands of officers and also reach out to the young generation in the diaspora in America and Canada, Australia, Europe, so on, and talk about these issues and really get back this sense of prideness and give tools how to really gain our strengths and the sense of rightness again. Once again, I mean, without that, you cannot counter anti-Semitism. You need to understand that. And you cannot counter it by rationalization, by explanations. No, it's not true. You know, it's not exactly like that. You know, maybe half is ours. Maybe, you know, we'll give them a state, half a state. All this kind of talking is completely irrelevant when you have to counter the propaganda that is being like a tsunami thrown on us. The messages need to be clean, clear-cut, simple, and go back to the basic of who we are. That's it. Anything else would be completely irrelevant to really make a change. And you know, when you go, I wrote, do what I did. Write Palestine on Twitter and look how it looks. how they do the propaganda, very simple, and then write anti-Semitism. Go and look at that, and you will see that it's not propaganda, it's talking. And with very few photos, with very few very clear messages, and explanations, and this, and this, and this. It's boring to read it, it's irrelevant, and it's so much more impactful saying that Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. That's it. So much simpler to explain it. So we need to change course. And this is my my main message here, and then I would like to answer questions at this stage.
Thank you very much. We do have a number of questions, and I've watched the dialogue between our guests, among our guests, and it's very interesting. Most people, 100%, are with you, General, and enthusiastic about what you're saying. I have, however, a couple of questions I'd like to throw at you. You mentioned in passing something about the Gulf states. So this is a toughie I've been worried about. Do you think there's a possibility that the Abraham Accords are like a Trojan horse, that the money coming from the Arab states that are, quotes, friends, and their ability to buy up parts of our companies, our sports teams, and the land is actually a way of just growing the Arab presence?
Well, there's two sides to this agreement. There are good things about it, but we shouldn't be naive. I mean, we have to really take the good things that we have in this accords, and we have to be alert and understand that at the end of the day, this is Arab states that are connected to the Palestinians. They have also their own agendas. And I will tell you this, the main issue is that when you, as I described before, Abu Mazen's, let's say if I would ask him what is his national security approach, okay? Now, when I look at Israel's national security approach, it's not only that we are having difficulty to counter what we are seeing. We're not even on the same, playing the same game. Like let's say they're playing rugby, we are playing cricket. We're not even on the same field. Well, we don't understand that, and we are not operating in a way that is countering what they are doing. And it's for a very specific reason. It's because Zionism, which is our most basic value, Judaism and Zionism, instead of being basic values, have become political issue. And the defense forces today, they try to distance themselves from issues that have to do with values because they're perceived as political. Like, you know, let's say they ask me, Amir, define yourself. Tell us something about you. So I would say, listen, if you want to know something about me, I'm a very proud Jew, and I love Am Israel, and I really love Eretz Israel, and I love our Bible and our heritage. Oh, so you are saying you are radical right wing? That's what they are saying.
Yes.
So how it came to be that loving my people or my land or my Bible, it has to do anything with right or left or politics, or what does it have to do with all of that? How did we end up that our basic values are a political issue? And this is what's happening. And we need to say, no, we are not willing to have this anymore. This is not politics. This is our basic values. This is us. This is who we are. This is our basic Am Israel.
I love that you cut to the chase. I think several people here have referenced the fact that there are Israelis, leftist Israelis, who don't promote that, who don't support that. I don't understand it at all, but their agenda is peace at all costs, land for peace, two-state solutions. How are you dealing with them? How is your organization dealing with them?
So what we are doing, we started, first of all, it's a matter of resources. We were a young organization, so we said we'll focus first of all on the pre-army programs. And there we are really doing a great job where we managed to build programs of 4 or 5 meaningful meetings, which each pre-army program. But in these meetings, not only we make a big impact in the meeting, we recruit them to our movement because we're a grassroots movement. So we say to these youngsters, listen, we're talking to you about things that you are getting really excited about, and you have a lot of questions. We cannot answer all of them just in a few meetings. So subscribe, join us. And you have to understand that when you join the Israeli, the IDSF, Habithonistim, although we have generals and colonels and battalion commanders and so on, if you join us, and it's true for everybody here, by the way, all of you, if you join us, we don't have hierarchy. If you are a member of IDSF, you can talk anytime to any general, to any colonel. You can get guidance for your military service, and you can speak with us. And then what we are doing, we're bringing them to the organization and starting to accompany them along their lives. Now, we're doing it in the pre-army programs. We need to do it in the high schools. We need to do it in the universities. But this is everything I'm saying here is out of the formal curriculum and of the state of Israel, right? This is us doing it. Eventually, we'll have to change the whole education system back to basic Zionism and the love of Israel and the Eretz Israel, and they're willing to fight for this land, because at the end of the day, our enemies are not going anywhere.
No, that was going to be my question. It was about the educational system, because as far as I can tell, for the years I've been participating in discussions about Israel, the government itself used the word occupation for a long time. The government itself spoke about occupied territories and continues to use the word Palestinian. And I will point out that we encourage people to always say Palestinian Arabs or Palestinian Jews, but not Palestinian alone. So how would you change the curriculum? And in speaking to that, why does Israel not deal with the PA curriculum, which is full of violence and terror?
What we are saying to the people is, listen, you don't need to give up your values to try to solve problems. I'm a proud Jew and a Zionist, and I love my people and I love my country. And I'm able to be that. I'm able also to be a very international person. I speak a lot of languages. I have friends all over the world. I travel. And I can also think about solutions. But when people say, they see a problem and they say, okay, I will give up all my values and say that the heart of the land of the Jewish people is occupied, which means that everything is occupied, because if you cannot explain why Bethel or parts of Jerusalem or the most important Jewish places in our history are not ours, how can you explain why Tel Aviv is ours? And in fact, it's not working for us. Because now everybody is saying, look, you Jews, you are saying that the heart of your land is not yours. So what claim do you have for Lod or Akko or any other place? Think about it even from common sense. It doesn't make sense. You cannot say that your rightness is that half is yours, or the most important places are not yours. It doesn't make sense. Because then you are saying nothing is yours. And this is what's happening to us now. And we need to reverse this situation. And yes, we need to change our educational system, definitely.
Several people have commented on the fact, though, that the Arab world is teaching lies. And it strikes me, it's always worried me that the Israeli government doesn't deal with the UNRWA education system, the PA-dominated education system, which propagates hatred and lies and violence and is now actually encouraging terror. Why is that not being challenged by the government itself?
Well, I think that, again, we see a problem talking about values. You have many politicians that, have lost their sense of rightness. Instead of talking about values, they talk about technical issues. They talk about, and they're afraid to see the reality as it is. What is really going on. We are going to present to the whole country and to the Prime Minister our assessment of what is going to happen and what is going on overall. And it's very, very different from some of the think tanks that have presented lately. we're seeing a completely different picture.
I can offer one positive. I think that's worthwhile at this point. CAEF is working with the Bedin Center for Near East Policy Research, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And we understand that they have recently spoken to a new Knesset committee that is finally looking at the textbooks and teaching under UNRWA. So there is a small opening there. So hopefully it'll get bigger and people will do something about it. One of the background pieces that you allude to when you talk about how Israel is portrayed by the Palestinian Arabs is the fact that this whole concept of the Palestinians and a Palestinian state arose in the 60s, right? It also followed the fact, it follows the time when the Arabs were aligned with the Nazis under the leadership of, the Mufti.
Yeah.
So
actually there is a whole research, which I don't have time to discuss, but what happened is that in 67, when we won the 6-Day War, and we pretty much humiliated Russia because, we destroyed their capabilities and so on. The Russians started building a huge program of propaganda, and they used also Arabs, like Abu Mazen, the KGB wrote his PhD. Now, the Russians, what they plan to do, they said, okay, Zionism seems to be something really successful, the Jews, look what they're doing and so on. And then they started to think, how are we going to undermine this? And they built a whole propaganda, this is the beginning of what we're seeing against Zionism, portraying Zionism as Nazism. Now, it's crazy to think about that. How can you think about an idea of taking the very Jews that were the victims of the Nazis and now make these Jews Nazis? And the Russians managed to do that. They managed to do that. Now, the reason why Europeans are going along with this, especially the Germans, because this is great for them. I mean, instead of feeling guilty for what they did, they deal with their guilt by saying, listen, but what do you want? These guys are doing the same to the Palestinians. They're Nazis. So now we are the Nazis. And again, when I go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and they talk to me as Bara, and I say, okay, guys, what are you doing? We're showing beautiful women on the Tel Aviv beach and the bars, and the high tech is so great, and the wineries. And look how sophisticated and nice we are. We are a startup nation. Okay, true. Everything is true. But what does this to do with countering Palestinians will be free from the river to the sea? How does this all help? If you don't go back to your main core values.
I think, though, we've also been very polite. So even while you say we shouldn't go to Hasbara, and I would agree, what we don't do is become more aggressive. And one of the questions I'm reading here is, why is it that we don't come forward and do the same things in reverse? So truth has been reversed. You showed us a picture where the Jew is portrayed as a Nazi, but we never say the Arab is the Nazi. We never say the Russians came after us and here's what they did. We don't point out that
Andrea, you are
there's a
saying something
Holocaust
very important. In every story, there is a hero and there is a villain, okay? In the Palestinian story, it's very simple. They are the heroes, we are the villains, and they are defamating us any way possible. They make themselves victims and heroes, okay? If we don't do the same, if we don't do the same, we stand no chance to countering that. And now we are trying to be over clever, try to write papers and explain and say and look at history. And no, it needs to be simple, just as them. Look what they are doing, do the same, but the opposite, okay? And start with us. We need to, first of all, not counter anti-Semites. We need to counter what's going on in the people of Israel.
Are you
We need to understand what's going on and treat ourselves before we go and talk about others. Because if we don't do that, nobody will respect us.
In as
Nobody
much-
respects weak people.
in as much
Nobody
as
respects people who don't respect themselves.
General, you're speaking to young people all the time. Are you using social media to reach them?
Yeah, definitely. Sure. We are a lot in the media and social media. We're hoping to, we're very active in Israel in the media, but we're hoping also to build the PR capability to speak, all over the world. It's a process. As I said, we're a young organization and we're growing very fast, but still young.
You mentioned the Amnesty International report. I don't think we can go a day without asking your comments on that and how you think we should respond, if we should respond to that crap.
Well, first of all, it's one phenomena among, many. At the end of the day, they are echoing everything that is going on today all over the place. I don't know what people got so worked out specifically about that. I mean, just open the social media and see what's going on. It's much more alarming than Amnesty. I think we don't understand the power of social media. It's completely crazy what's going on there.
I think the fear we have with Amnesty is what influence it has on governments, because it's supposedly a very old, reputable human rights organization. And I see in Canada, Amnesty lobbying the government to accept its report, to make a statement that Israel is an apartheid state.
Mm-hmm.
So is the Israeli government responding? Are you responding? Do we?
Yeah, but again, in a way that is, it's not going to the core fights. I don't hear the government of Israel saying, listen, we are the people of Israel and this is our land. That's it. No explanation needed.
Among the members of your organization, do you have members who are from non-Jewish communities in Israel?
10% of the organization is the Bedouins and Druze. We have 3 Druze generals and a 4th one that is joining probably in the next 2 weeks after we will recover from COVID. And we have many Bedouins and Druze who are very Zionists, who served in the army. Some of them are more Zionists than Jews.
I think that's probably true. So just before we wrap up, could you say a little bit about what you think those of us in the diaspora could be doing in support of what you're saying and building Jewish pride and Zionist pride?
Well, I think first of all, I think what I encourage you to do is to look at the current situation as an opportunity and understand that all of the discussions that we Jews have between ourselves, yes, Judea and Samaria, not Judea and Samaria, 2-state solution, 1-state solution, has become completely irrelevant. So we can stop having these discussions because everybody is telling us that we don't belong to this land at all, and reset and create a new discussion, a relevant one, and embrace this opportunity to go back to our core values. And this is what we need to be doing. We need to go back and start building this, and we are willing to help. I have a whole army of officers, brave ones that have fought for years for the state of Israel and are willing to fight for you. I was interviewed on the radio, Jewish radio, a week ago, and they asked me, how can we help you? I said, no, you didn't get it. I'm here to help you.
Well, we appreciate that. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening to think about how you can carry this message forward. I think it is dependent on every one of us, whether it is sharing this recording, which will be coming to you shortly, tomorrow, or hosting another webinar yourself and inviting the general or one of his colleagues to speak, or taking some of the material that I see some of you have posted in the chat. There are links to various pieces of information, including the link to the website for Habithonistim. Please look that up. And yes, to the person who asked the question, will we share the information in the chat and Q&A? And we will distill that and make that available as well. I want to thank you.
I'm putting here also my mail.
Thank you.
And I put again our website. and you can contact me. And I think Andrea, sincerely, that look, what I'm saying is, I think probably most of the people never heard, certainly not an Israeli general talk like that, and the concept is new. And I would be happy to follow up on this, because I see that people are reacting and a lot of questions and so on. And certainly there is a lot of things that need to be discussed. So anytime you would like to follow up on this, I would be more than happy.
What I see is more chat and Q&A than in most of our webinars. So you've got people very eager to follow up. And what I also see is people linking with one another, which is also very helpful. So I want to thank everyone that did come and participate today. And of course, we will take all the information and share it. And thank you again, General and friend to CAF, for being here. And thanks to all of our sponsors and supporters. Everyone stay well. Have a good day. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.